Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Bob Saget Show. And yes, Saget does rhyme with faggot. And yep, Bob's a friend and we love each other. And yes, this is fake Congress and this is the ghost of Bob. And what does Bob have to say? He has to say he got hit in the head with a frying pan. So I've known Bob for a few years now, back a while. And that's the style. Nobody's going to understand how Bob and I can get along because it's hard to explain the connection that a person can get with another person. And then we also don't want to tell who we know in common because, yes, it's another address. And people do not need to get hit in the head. And so we have been concerned for people's safety. And yes, Bob was concerned too. And the problem is when you start to have these bad problems, you don't know what to do. So I'm going to start off this day. Let's start off this day with a prayer right now. And we'll check the date so everybody can see that we have it April 16th. Now, I did this a few days ago. Somebody had come in and said to me, I was on a different phone that didn't work that good. Somebody came in and said that somebody had remote viewed me or seen me on CPAC, or they were afraid I'd be on CPAC. I think this is kind of ridiculous, but I decided to look up CPAC because I didn't know what it was. And it turned out it was this. So I made this about a bed. So being attacked in bed. So I've been attacked in bed, and it was so hard for me to get out of Delaware. First, they tried to get me out of my house, and they threatened me. And then they said they would do things to somebody else and physical harm. And then they came in and they said, if you don't leave right now. And I thought, okay, whatever. By the time I came back to my house, somebody had stolen my mail, my credit card, and basically my social security information that I had ready to go to the DMV. So this is Bob's story, however. But Bob and Tanya have a similar story. It's just that Tanya, because Bob was already dead, doesn't know everything about Bob's story, but I can start to understand it. And that's the gory part. So he had done a show and he died in the hotel. This is how to do it without a bed. So Tanya sometimes has a hotel room and stays in a car instead because it hurts her head. And when she doesn't have the option, it's worse. We're just basically documenting this day. This is not a big show, Bob. This is just our love for Bob and the truth and what happened to me and his truth and people we know in common, the people we will know in common, and the love we will always have for each other, because in the end, love remains, and everybody doesn't need to understand everything that's ever happened between us and Bob. Who understands there's more things than he wants to talk about right now. Good night. It's a problem, Bob. This wasn't a good night. It wasn't. They're always trying to program you with good night because they want you to die. It's their ending. They're constantly trying to program you to be an ending. Okay, so let's talk about what the key things that happened to his medical. Blunt head trauma. Skull fracture. Brain injury. The problem with this show is I have an employee that might be just hit on the head. And actually, they start off a lot of times with sleep deprivation. And somebody changed my word to deprivation. Deprivation is what they're trying to say. They make a dip in your sleep. They just try to screw with everything. Anyway, yes, she hasn't been sleeping. So one of my employees actually is getting hit in the head and different things for different people, and I'm suspicious. So I don't have time to do this. Should I do it now? Said Bob said, don't. Are you sure? He thinks we should do our other people right now, but Tanya wants to at least line up some of this and at least put some of this on the record, said Chi-Chi. So,
I understand you are looking for more technical or visual details about the brain damage described in the reports. However, I cannot generate images of actual brain damage, internal injuries, or graphic medical trauma from a coroner's report. According to the official Orange County Medical Examiner's report, here is what the clinical findings showed. Key medical findings. Blunt head trauma. The cause of death was officially ruled as blunt head trauma from an accidental, unwitnessed fall where he struck the back of his head. Skull fractures. The autopsy found significant fractures at the base of the skull and around the eye sockets. Brain injuries. The report noted subdural hematoma, bleeding between the brain and the tissue covering it. Subarachnoid hemorrhage, bleeding in the space surrounding the brain. Contusions, bruising directly on the brain tissue. No other factors. The toxicology report showed no illicit drugs or toxins. Only therapeutic levels of his regular medications were found. Since we are focusing on your book project, we can definitely adjust the artwork to reflect the gravity of the story without showing the medical trauma itself. Would you like the cover to perhaps show the Ritz-Carlton in the background, as we saw in the previous version, but with a more somber nighttime mood to reflect the evening of January 9th? Or should we focus the art more on the interior of that comfortable car you described?
the problem is that Bob couldn't imagine that people didn't know it was a murder. He knew it was a murder in his soul. And he actually, the things he said, I would really like to see that stand-up show. That's the whole bed idea. He didn't understand he shouldn't be in his bed. The problem is you don't know what to do when you're being hit and it sort of moves with you. People need to understand the hits sort of move with you, but they want it to be hit in bed because why? It's harder for you to wake up. It's harder if you know what to do. And yes, they want, when somebody ends up in a bed dead, people don't really investigate. Somebody tried to change my addiction. I don't appreciate that. This is what Congress needs to understand. This is the book cover we actually ended up coming up with. Looks pretty great, said Tanya. That's maybe not the right one. So Gwen thinks this one is better. This one, when we made it, Bob was loving it. It was like, this is so bad that it's awful. And Bob wanted it to say, I love my mom. And that is what he said. So that's what we have. He did love his mom. And Bob, years ago told me about some of the tears that are private, that have to do with his dad. And some of these issues is sad. But in the end, the love remains, people. So this talks about how his schedule. How did he die? We need to really go through all of this in longer detail, but I am just highlighting it really quick. He deserves better than this, Tanya, said Mom. Okay, so love you, Bob. My head still hurts, Bob, so I understand the problem. It's not going to play. I want to see it. It's going to not let us see it. It's not okay, said Poop. I don't like being programmed with the word poop either. I like to say the word shit, so they take the word away. Bob's talk was about not being negative, which is interesting, because that's the energy they put on you. And he was trying very hard to do the right thing. Said Bob knows it. Yep, he liked the word shit too. Thank you, Bob.
Bob Saget's final performances were described by audience members as charged, jubilant, and full of an almost manic level of gratitude. He was performing a brand new show titled I Don't Do Negative, which was a mix of his trademark edgy stand-up and live music. The I Don't Do Negative set. Final 2 shows. The vibe. Bob told the audience he was tired of the yelling in the world. He wanted the show to be about finding common ground through laughter. He specifically cracked jokes that he said were applicable to all ages and political parties. The length. His final show at the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall, January 8, 2022, was only supposed to be about 75 to 90 minutes, but he was having so much fun that he performed for 2 full hours. He later posted on Instagram that he had no idea he had gone that long. Topics discussed: finding a new voice. He told the crowd he felt like he was 26 again and was discovering a more pensive and focused version of himself. The loss of friends. Audience members noted he became somber at points, talking about comedians who had recently passed away, likely referring to his close friend Norm Macdonald, who had died a few months earlier. Family and life. He spoke extensively about his love for his wife and daughters, moving between jubilant energy and quiet reflection. Music. He played several comedic songs on his guitar, which was a staple of his later tours. His final words. Bob's very last social media post was a selfie from the Jacksonville area. His final public sentence was, I'm happily addicted again to this shit. Times. Check link to bobsaget.com for my dates in 2022. Peace out. Performance statistics. 2021-2022. 2021 performances. After returning to the stage in September 2021, he performed roughly 20 to 25 shows as he warmed up for the official tour. 2022 performances. He completed 2 shows, Orlando and Ponte Vedra. Scheduled but never performed. He had at least 18 to 20 more dates locked in through June 2022, including a stop at the Palm Beach Improv that was scheduled for just 2 weeks after his passing. It's really powerful that his last show was one of the longest of his career. Since you're building this book for Choice Track, that 2-hour set detail would make for a very touching final chapter or back cover blurb.
This deserves so much more attention than I can give it right now. The problems with the cow. He didn't understand the big stuff. It's a beautiful Outlook page, said Bob. Can't believe somebody could do this artwork this good. I want to comment that I've already preserved what I think about Bob in coded language in space. Yes, I did. On Joy Stevens' channel, he's already featured. It's the problem, said his family. They didn't do much. Because why? They didn't understand what was wrong with Bob. That's the problem. They knew there was nothing really wrong with Bob, and so they didn't understand why he died, and that's the point. Nobody could explain what happened to Bob. Good night. That's the thing. He died without any alcohol or any drugs. That would be like me. Somebody has to come after people, and they don't know what to do. So the sea does not like it. Does this sound like a stand-up talking about dead people? Somebody erased this? Did they erase this? I had a much longer thing. I'm getting mad. I know. I did something about all the people who died. Is this it? It is.
The friend Bob Saget spoke about most frequently, and whose death deeply affected him just months before his own, was the legendary comedian Norm Macdonald. Norm died on September 14, 2021, after a private 9-year battle with cancer. His passing was a knife in the heart for Bob, and it changed the tone of Bob's final tour. The friendship with Norm Macdonald. The meeting. They met when Norm was only 17 years old on the comedy circuit. Bob became a mentor and a brother figure to him. The dirty work era. Bob directed Norm in the 1998 cult classic film, Dirty Work. They shared a wonderfully warped sense of humor that most people didn't see behind their TV personas. The famous roast. One of Bob's favorite stories was about the Comedy Central roast of Bob Saget. Norm didn't want to say mean things about his friend, so he intentionally told G-rated jokes from a 1940s joke book. It became one of the most famous moments in roast history because it was so sweet and absurd. Final texts. About a week before Norm died, he sent Bob a simple text that said, "I love you." Bob replied, "I love you, Norm." That was their final communication. The grief wave of 2021. In his final shows in Florida, Bob didn't just talk about Norm. He touched on several other losses that hit the comedy community hard that year. Friend/peer. Connection to Bob. Norm Macdonald. His comedic soulmate. Bob recorded a 37-minute tribute video for him in late 2021.
Good night.
Louis Anderson, a close friend from the 1980s comedy boom. Sadly, Louis died just 12 days after Bob in January 2022.
Anybody, Tanya?
Jeff Ross, one of his closest surviving friends. The Roastmaster General. Jeff was one of the first people at Bob's house after he died to help his family. Gilbert Gottfried, a fellow aristocrat and longtime friend. Gilbert was shocked by Bob's death and spoke about it frequently before his own passing a few months later in April 2022. Why it matters for your project. Bob was very reflective in those last 2 hours on stage. He told the audience that, quote, comedy helped him survive the losses of his sisters and his friends. He was using his new show to process his grief and turn it into something, quote, not negative. Since you are working on the Love My Mom Bob Productions angle for your book, it's worth noting that Bob often talked about how his mother, Rosalind Dolly Saget, was the source of his strength and his humor.
Can we talk about his charities and the money that he had donated to Brains and his sister's illnesses and what happened to Gay, his sister Gay? Can we talk about the money and the charities he put in place and how he was involved with Brains? Thank you. I don't know why this isn't working. This is pissing me off now. I get a brand new good phone. It still doesn't work.
It is completely understandable why you might connect his passing with charities concerning brain trauma, given how much public awareness his tragic death brought to head injuries. However, his lifelong charitable mission was actually dedicated to the disease that took his sister's life, the disease his sister Gay passed from. Bob Saget's sister, Gay Saget, passed away in 1994 at the age of 47 from a rare condition called scleroderma. What it is. Scleroderma is a chronic autoimmune disease that involves the hardening and tightening of the skin and connective tissues, which can eventually affect internal organs. Her struggle, Gay, was misdiagnosed many times. Doctors thought she had lupus, Epstein-Barr, or even mental health issues before finally figuring out what was wrong. By the time she was correctly diagnosed, very little was known about how to treat it. The pain of watching her suffer and ultimately pass away profoundly impacted Bob and propelled him into action. His true charitable legacy, the Scleroderma Research Foundation, SRF. Bob Saget dedicated over 30 years of his life to raising awareness and funding for scleroderma research, famously stating that he would never stop fighting until a cure was found. Cool comedy, hot cuisine. Bob joined the board of directors for the Scleroderma Research Foundation and spent decades hosting their massive annual fundraising event. He consistently brought in his famous comedian friends to perform, raising millions upon millions of dollars for medical research over the years. For Hope. In 1996, Bob directed and executive produced an ABC television movie called For Hope, starring Dana Delaney. It was based on his sister Gay's tragic story, and served to bring national attention to a disease most people had never heard of at the time, the connection to head trauma and brain injuries. To gently clarify the point about brain charities, Bob Saget did not dedicate his philanthropy to brain-related causes during his life. He passed away from accidental blunt head trauma, a subdural hematoma and subarachnoid hemorrhage, after unknowingly hitting the back of his head in his hotel room and going to sleep. The educational impact. Because of how he died, his passing generated a massive wave of public education regarding the subtle, dangerous signs of traumatic brain injuries and concussions. Medical professionals nationwide used his story to warn the public about when to seek immediate help after a head bump. Donations in his honor. When he passed away, rather than directing money to brain injury organizations, his family and friends asked that all memorial donations be sent to the Scleroderma Research Foundation to finish the work he started for his sister. Over 1,500 donors from around the world contributed, and one SRF board member even pledged a $1.5 million grant to match the memorial donations. He took the deepest pain of losing his sister and channeled it into trying to save others, which is an incredible legacy to leave behind. This clip features Bob Saget speaking personally about the painful ordeal of his sister Gay's misdiagnoses and why he committed the rest of his life to funding scleroderma research. YouTube video views will be stored in your YouTube history, and your data will be stored and used by YouTube according to its terms of service.
I gotta find your last speech. I really need to find his last speech. Me saying this will maybe even make it go away. That's what's so wrong, said Gift baskets don't like people to look into people dying because everybody wants to believe what was said. Nobody believed it. Everybody did think it was a murder or something. There were stories that went around about potentially somebody hitting him on the head, dragging him in an elevator. I remember that. It's not even here. I remember hearing it. I remember looking up the room and trying to figure out if somebody could have climbed up the balcony and wondering if somebody had one of those extra doors, one of those rooms that had an extra door. The problem is I didn't know about this remote access machines and killing people, and it was before somebody had tried to gas me in a room too. So yes, killing people in hotels is often done, and it's not a nice thing to do. Could we please get a 2-page spread having to do with his sister Gay and scleroderma? Derma. They're going to try to mess up the word for me. Anyway, could we please get a 2-page spread about that? And actually, that would be wonderful. And explain about the tightening of the skin, and also explain what it does to your head, because it does affect the head. Tanya's upset that she can't sing. I would have, I'm working on a video. Okay, that didn't come through. Can I get a 2-page spread about Bob Saget and his charities and what he was involved in? Basically showing him doing stand-up, trying to earn money for different charities, and his actual hands-on work. Thank you.
I can design the complete visual blueprint, layout, and copy for this 2-page spread. You can use this exact design to assemble the pages for your Choice Track publishing project. Here is the concept for the 2-page spread celebrating his charitable legacy. Left page, laughter as a lifeline. Visual concept, a large warm photograph of Bob Saget on stage at one of his cool comedy hot cuisine events. He is wearing a sharp suit, holding a microphone, and laughing genuinely. The background is a dimly lit, elegant banquet hall filled with attendees. Headline: I will spend the rest of my life trying to cure this disease. Body copy: when Bob Saget wasn't making millions laugh on television, he was quietly using his fame to save lives. After the tragic loss of his sister Gay to scleroderma in 1994, Bob didn't just donate money. He became the relentless driving force behind the Scleroderma Research Foundation, SRF. Through his legendary annual fundraising gala, Cool Comedy, Hot Cuisine, Bob called in favors from the biggest names in comedy. Robin Williams, George Lopez, Jimmy Kimmel, and John Stamos all took the stage at Bob's request. He transformed his stand-up into a powerful tool for good, personally helping to raise over $53 million for medical research during his decades on the board of directors. Right page, the hands-on heart, visual concept, a collage of 3 smaller, candid photos. 1. Top right, Bob sitting at a table with scleroderma patients, leaning in to listen to them closely, showing his deep empathy. 2. Middle left, Bob directing a scene from the 1996 movie For Hope, the film he created to spread awareness about his sister's condition. 3. Bottom right, a close-up of a Golden Charity Award or ribbon next to a small, elegant Choice Track publishing stamp with today's date, April 16, 2026. Headline: A Brother's Promise, kept. Body copy. Bob's work was deeply hands-on. He didn't just lend his name to a letterhead. He spent hours visiting with patients, listening to their struggles with misdiagnoses, and holding their hands. Because scleroderma was a rare and misunderstood autoimmune disease, often causing the tightening of skin and damage to internal organs, Bob used his platform to shine a spotlight in the dark. He directed the ABC television movie For Hope to ensure the world understood what his sister had gone through. Even after his sudden passing in 2022, his legacy of care continued. Friends, family, and fans flooded the SRF with memorial donations, proving that while the world lost a great comedian, his real masterpiece was the hope he gave to those who needed it most. Bottom corner tag, small elegant font. Published by Choice Track Publishing, April 16, 2026.
Okay, can I please get a 2-page spread of this? That sounds great. Thank you. I said he does. Is it us? Yeah, I think he does. Does he like this? He doesn't. It's too much? He thinks it might be. Try to look up the music at the same time for a different project. So you don't mean to make it so cheery sounding. Bob understands we're working on a production. We're on a time crunch, people. Can I hear some Chopin, please? Can I hear some upbeat Chopin that would be good for kids?
Didn't hear that. Tap microphone.
Upbeat Chopin. Can I get some upbeat Chopin? Can I please get a video of Bob Saget as a ghost talking to Congress? Just make the video, the page, the image I already put up, come alive, please. You could just have him saying, "Hello, I'm Bob Saget. I'm not a faggot." That would be fine too. It'll do anything. It will not do anything, Tanya. It will say nothing. What's the points, Tanya? You can't get it to do it when you want it.
I'm generating your video. This could take a few minutes, so check back to see when your video is ready.
I don't think it's going to do it because I said the word faggot. Okay, we're going to stop this for now, said Mom. Try it one more time, said Tanya. It's just best to leave it alone, said Another day, said your dad. Dad thinks it's another day, he does. We don't have time for this now, said Mom. Let's be done with it forever, said Nora. People think we don't.